What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to a brand new week here on Anfield Agenda. And as always, we're going to do our best to get stuck into the big topics that are working their way through the Liverpool fan circles. Of course, tonight we're going to talk about the Alonso and Chelsea situation. We'll talk about what the journalists have been writing about and saying. We'll have some bits from David Ornstein. We'll talk about transfers. We'll talk about everything that you would expect us to go through over the next 90 minutes or so. There is a lot to get stuck into tonight, my friends, but as always, we want to know your thoughts on all of these subjects, so please feel free to let us know in the comment section. The first poll question of the night, I should probably give you some explanation around. Probably a little bit confused, asking, do you feel offended or annoyed by being called an E-Red or an E-fan, which is a term that's really popped up over the last few months to differentiate between the match-going Anfield attending fans and the rest of us all around the world who maybe aren't fortunate enough to be born in a Liverpool postcode or to have a season ticket. So I want to know how you guys feel about that as well. That is the first poll question of the night. And again, it comes from Simon Hughes and his piece earlier on in The Athletic. So we do have a lot to get through, and I seen there was a couple of super chats that I needed to catch up on before I forget them. So let me start by going through a few of these, and then we'll get stuck into it. Right. Tipsy Dipsy, how are we, sir? And how are the others? Tinky Winky, well, looking after them. How are you? Said Hughes and Edwards are going to set us back years. Look, I know Ornstein going on NBC, saying what he said, feels like a dagger. And I know seeing Chelsea linked with Alonso feels like a kick in the nuts. But I've always said to you guys, I don't know if the club are going to solely look at Alonso. I don't know if they are going to look in another direction. But what I do know is I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it with good reason. And I'll try to explain tonight over the course of the stream why I'm not believing it. Or why at least I'm dubious about what we're seeing reported, because it's important to understand where these things come from. Now, the poll, or the not poll, what's what I'm looking for, the petition to remove Arne Slot that was started by, I think, the Xabi era or one of those accounts on X, that's closing in and we'll probably hit 1 million signatures before we finish this stream tonight. Last check, it was at 980 something thousand, something like that, just before I went on. So there's a lot to get through tonight. I want to read you an article written by a friend of mine as well, Eddie Gibbs. I want to read you that piece on his take and where we are. Eddie works with Anfield Index. Eddie has a podcast with Sir Kenny Dalglish and a few other bits and pieces. So I want to read you out what Eddie's had to say, so you can see that it's not just us in here. It's not just us Anfield Agenda folk that feel this way. It's right across the Liverpool fandom. Medusa, how are you, my friend? Said Ornstein on NBC earlier, Alonso was not under consideration at Liverpool at all, and Liverpool fully intend to go into next season with Arne Slot. Now, this is something that David Ornstein has been saying for quite a while, but it's important to understand where he gets his information from. And he gets his information in this regard from the people who are wanting to keep Slot at the club, which are Hughes and Edwards. So I'm not surprised that that's what Ornstein's saying, because that's probably what he's hearing. But it doesn't escape that FSG haven't had their say on this, or that end of season review hasn't been looked at yet. Of course, we're going to hear Hughes and Edwards brief their friendly journalists that they want them to stay because they don't want to admit their fault. But as we go through this tonight, we'll try to show without any doubt where the fans' minds are, what the numbers are showing, and what the sentiment of Liverpool fans are at this moment in time. And it isn't that they want Arne Slot involved. Now, you probably haven't seen any coverage of this 1 million signed petition anywhere because, well, they keep suppressing. Like I've said before, you won't see it in the Echo, you won't see it anywhere else, because they don't want to admit that they're all little sheep and that they all just go along with the company narrative. But they can't deny it forever, so we'll keep pushing. Now, I've seen a couple of things today from the likes of Anfield Sector that said, basically, we're stuck with Arne Slot, we're going to have to just own it. That's given up, lads. With all due respect to Anfield Sector and others, if you just give up like that, if you cower, that's not going to help the situation. You've got to be proactive. You've got to keep having your voice heard, because you have a voice. It is an important voice. Your opinion matters. Your money matters. Your stewardship of this club and your support of it matters. So don't give up. Don't do what they want you to do, which is just shrug your shoulders and think, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. Of course there is. You have a voice. It's important that we come on the same page together, as many of us as we can, and have our voices heard. So, as I've said, loads to get through tonight, and thank you guys for being here with us. Cal said, Craig, all the toxic online E-fans were booing so hard from their armchairs on Saturday, it could be heard all the way inside Anfield. Cue new kit launch. Exactly on that. On this new kit launch, if you want to have your say, you're going to have to start voting with your wallets. You're going to have to make your voices heard in as many ways as possible. And I know it's really difficult, because this is the time of the year where I usually get really excited seeing what the new kit is, what all the new goodies that are going to come along with it are. But I've made a decision at this moment in time not to be spending a penny at Liverpool Football Club, not to be engaging with them on social media, and just basically making sure that I can do my own little tiny part to say and show my dissent, because right now it's so far away from being acceptable. But like I said, loads to get through, and I will move on to Eddie's piece in a minute, as well as some other bits from David Ornstein. There's also a piece tonight from Matt Barlow that said Liverpool are strong contenders for Jared Bowen. So that's an interesting one that I wanted to get stuck into tonight as well. Liz said, I'm just a fan. They can fuck right off, WFM. So this terminology, Liz, it's hilarious from the outside, because they tried to say at first, when the real frustration started with Arna, they tried to paint it out like it was just people online, people on X, people on social media, who are a little bit more angry, let's say, than the match-going fan. So that was the initial thing that Carragher and many others tried to just paint us as being loose cannons, and that it isn't the match-going fans. And then it started to become the match-going fans, and you started to hear a little bit more dissent from Liverpool fans. Then they tried to say it was a small minority, and now that that's becoming clearer and clearer, they're trying to start dividing fans again, calling them E-fans, online fans, E-Reds. It's all pathetic, and it's really short-sighted, because as I've said many, many, many times, modern football clubs, whether it's Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, whoever you are, they can't survive with just 60,000 match-going fans every week. They need the views, they need the finances, they need the social media clicks, they need the buy-in from fans all around the world. And to have people within our own ecosystem belittling a subsection of fans, I find it really infuriating. I really do, but I don't find it surprising. And that's the sad part, because this has been going on for years. But now that the stadium is turning, now all of a sudden they're trying to change the narrative again. And Simon Hughes' piece earlier on trying to say, is just this the new norm now at Anfield? Has the online stuff crept into the stadium? Or maybe, and I know this is a bit outlandish, but maybe, just maybe, everybody can see the same thing. And everybody knows it isn't good enough. And everybody knows there's a disconnect with the manager. And I don't know how many tens of thousands of people they have to hear say, I feel so disconnected to my football club, before they realise the damage that they're causing. They try to just make out like anybody who says anything that doesn't go with the narrative is negative. We care. We all care. You wouldn't be here watching this stream or watching Liverpool games or commenting if you didn't care. And that is being weaponised against you. And I don't like it. I don't like it because it's unfair. And the belittling of us as a subsection of fans is pathetic. We're all fans. This football club should unite and bring people together. These attempts to divide us, which, by the way, they try to say people like me do. I'm all about bringing people together, and I've been saying that for years. I think when we talk about Liverpool fans, we should talk about it holistically, and we should talk about it right across the board. I don't give a shit whether you're from Timbuktu, Australia, America, Liverpool city centre, wherever you're from. If you love this football club, if you've caught the Liverpool bug, brilliant. Welcome in, whether it's 1 year or 50 years. Everybody's voice counts, because everybody is a fan at the end of the day. And this tiered fandom is pathetic. It just is used again to try to belittle a subsection. Jaden, hi Craig, my dad works at Liverpool. That really made me laugh earlier on, Jaden. Honestly, I was going through some of the comments in the video earlier on, liking a few of them, replying to a few people, and I seen that one and I just pissed myself laughing. Ian said, if Slot's here next season, I've no hope or faith for next season. Just sack him now and get Alonso in. So Ian, we all know what's going to happen. If they keep him in the job, he'll be gone by November. And then, of course, we'll be in panic mode. And then we actually, ironically, could end up in the cycle like Manchester United. They have a chance to end that cycle now. And I have a theory. And it is only a theory, but it's a theory I'd like to try and explain. It feels to me, as a Liverpool fan, and I'm not on my own in thinking this, but I'm not certainly saying I'm speaking for everybody, but it feels like they don't want another larger-than-life personality. They don't want somebody with that love, admiration and buy-in, like Jurgen Klopp, like Xabi Alonso. It feels like they're trying to get somebody in that will just be a coach, do what they're told, not rock the boat, but not be too powerful a personality that they maybe want a little bit more power and influence at the club moving forward. This is how I feel about it right now. That's what I see with Hughes and Edwards, that they don't want somebody with a big personality that fans will immediately buy into being on board. That's how I see it right now. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but what other reason is there? There's no footballing reasons, because this dossier, which Mel Reddy spoke about a little bit, and I'll touch on it in a while, that showed that yes, maybe Arne Slot was the right choice for one iteration of Liverpool, but we aren't that anymore. So maybe you need to run those numbers again and see what you come up with. But look, like I said, that's just a point. I'm not saying that the ego thing is genuine, but I don't think it's outlandish either to suggest that maybe they just don't want another big personality to come in. Which in itself is weird, because you would think that connecting with fans would be a big part of this. Because ultimately, these are the people that you want to create the atmosphere. These are the people that you want to support the club both emotionally and financially. And to limit that admiration feels very, I don't know, weak-minded, very petty. Tiger Valley said, feeling good today. How you keeping up, dude? I'm all right, you know. I'm all right. Really enjoyed last night's stream. I thought it was a good one. Had lots of fun talking with you all. But yeah, look, I'm just focused because I refuse to just give in. I refuse to. I'm never going to be that person. And it kind of saddened me a little bit to see Anfield Sector earlier on posting that we just have to accept it now. No, we don't. We absolutely don't have to accept it. That's what they want us to do, is give up. But I think Messrs Hughes and Edwards have made a big mess of this, and they need to be called out. And Liverpool fans should be listened to. Not watching a single game, not spending a single dime in the shop or travelling over until he's gone. Enough is enough. Good. And I mean that as a thank you, good. Because if that's what it's going to take, that's what we're going to have to do. This isn't, be under no disillusionment or be under no concept or preconception that you're on your own here. You are not in the minority in wanting him gone. You are the majority. We need to become an even more vocal majority, but don't be under any misconception that you aren't saying what Liverpool fans feel. You don't get that petition up to 1 million with no big publications pushing it unless you've got a sentiment behind it. Because look at the Mbappe one. That's a little bit different because anybody could shithouse that. But who's going to really click on the petition to get rid of Slot? It's not going to be opposition fans, because you see every night in here, we've got our friends, United fans, Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans, all coming in and saying, keep him. We want you to keep him because that means you'll be shit. So it ain't them that's clicking on these polls. It's Liverpool fans all around the world that is clicking on it and signing that petition. And to get it over 1 million without any real media push, I think it's pretty good, especially seeing as it started from a relatively small account and has found its way to this in a couple of days. So keep signing it, keep having your say, keep sharing it, because this is what it's going to take. And I am genuinely really sorry for what it's come to for Liverpool fans, but they're basically sticking two fingers up to us, trying to divide us, trying to belittle us, trying to get everybody that they can to be on the same page, pushing back against us. I'm going to show you a few things tonight, tell you a few things, share a few perspectives from other people that I hope will give you a little bit more, I don't want to say courage, but confidence to speak up. Remember, we were made to believe Isak not for sale. Exactly. Look, Ornstein's been wrong on lots of stuff, and will be wrong on lots of stuff again. And that isn't knocking David Ornstein. Just that's the life of a journalist. So we had James Pearce telling us the other day that Alonso was never a target, and then you had David Ornstein's post from back in the day saying he was the #1 target. Same outlet, same information. So again, at this point, it's up to Liverpool fans where they get their information from. But I can promise you, but I can't tell you how, I know that there are very, 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 very prominent people who don't hold the belief that Slot will be there next season. Whether you want to take that leap of faith with me or not, that's up to you. We're going to have to just wait and see, but keep having your say, because it's important, folks. Do you want to sit through this next season? Do you want us to be here having this conversation? Because I tell you what, I used to enjoy watching Liverpool. I used to feel anticipation and excitement about watching Liverpool. Now I'm wondering how bad it's going to be. That's where we're at. How bad is it going to be this week? How more annoyed are Liverpool fans going to be? How many more stupid post-match press conferences is Arne going to come out with sarcastic, idiotic stuff that just winds us up rather than trying to bring us together? It's crazy. So if you can, I'd like to read Eddie's piece to you. Get your take on it. It's going to take me a couple of minutes to read through it. It gives really good insight from somebody that isn't connected to Anfield Agenda, is a shareholder, an Anfield Index, somebody who has a podcast every week with King Kenny, and somebody who, like us, very much has his finger on the pulse of all things Liverpool Football Club as a fan. So I want to read that out to you, but let me just quickly go through the remaining super chats before I do. Mash Blends said, "Hey Craig, I have tickets to see him in New York, and if he's still here, I'm going to sell those tickets because I don't have time or energy to waste. Boring." I get it. I get it. Like, it kills me not to be buying anything, not to be putting my money down for the new shirt or buying it for my son. You know how excited I was when Liverpool switched back to Adidas. So to not be excited about the new releases, it breaks my heart. But I feel like it's a small thing that I can do to have my say. Nessie said, "I'd rather have Melissa Reddy as coach than slot in. What a beautiful article she wrote. More power to her." Melissa's brilliant. Like, I don't know Melissa Reddy. I've never had the pleasure of interviewing her or chatting with her, but I've always admired her work, whether it was in the early days with the Anfield Rap, whether it was when she was on, I think it was Goal she initially wrote with, then obviously went to Sky. I think she's brilliant. And she's always very balanced in what she says and backs it up. So yes, that piece from Melissa Reddy was great, and we'll give you some little pieces from that tonight, although we don't have the whole piece that we could read out to you. Liz said, "Phil, so sorry you lost your grandchild." As are we all. I mean, I didn't see that post from Phil, but incredibly sorry, Phil, if that happened, my man. God, my heart goes out to you, sir. Aaron said, if we're E-fans for criticising club management, then they're bootlickers for refusing to. Nobody called this season transitional till we started losing. Exactly that, Aaron. Exactly that. They started to shape a narrative to accept the failures. And I've said it for so long. The hypocrisy of these people is off the charts. Let me just read this article out to you. "I love my club, just like you and the mods and the chat. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate you." Andrew, how are you, sir? Said, "Hughes and Edwards are to blame. Hughes, as a sporting director, should be telling Slot the philosophy of the club, but unfortunately, he's been a ghost this season. Slot out." I agree with that sentiment, Andrew, and thank you for sharing it, my man. Right, let me read you out this piece. Now, you're going to have to stick with me because this is going to take a couple of minutes to read out. It's written by Eddie Gibbs, and you can find this in its entirety on X. Eddie's account in the post is linked in the description of this stream. So if you'd like to read it, you can click on the link in the description. It'll bring you to the post. It's written by Eddie Gibbs, at Eddie Gibbs on X. So Eddie said this: "Arne Slot, Anfield boos, and Liverpool's summer of reckoning. There comes a point when the noise can no longer be filled away as online hysteria. There comes a point when the club can no longer pretend the anger belongs only to the distant, faceless world of social media where the so-called E-Reds apparently sit in dark rooms, thumping keyboards with thunderous rage and precious little room for rational thought. Well, I suppose that makes me one of them now. Never mind the hundreds of times I've been to Anfield, never mind the miles, the money, the years, the frozen nights, the bad trains, the worst football. These days, if you dare to say what your eyes are telling you, you're cast as a wool, a crank, a nuisance, somebody whose view bears no resemblance to what fans inside the ground believe. Then Anfield booed. Again. For what I believe is the fourth time this season, the ground told Arne Slot and his Liverpool players exactly what it thought of the stale, sterile, turgid football being served up. The 1-1 draw with Chelsea was not an isolated irritation, it was another bleak exhibit in a case that has been building since November. A point, yes. A performance, barely. A team with purpose, no. This was Liverpool stumbling towards the end of a season where the life has been drained out of it. Champions League qualification may still come, but if it does, it will owe as much to the mediocrity around them as to the convincing virtue of their own. And then he said, Anfield anger can no longer be dismissed. Eddie writes, I've never booed at a match. That's my choice. It doesn't make me more loyal than those who do. It doesn't give me the right to sneer at people who've paid a fortune to watch football this joyless and decide at the end of it their silence would be dishonest. And that's a line that I love. Your silence is dishonest if you're unhappy with it and you're allowing it to happen. Booing does not make you a bad fan. Sometimes the only way to be heard is to make yourself impossible to ignore. Liverpool supporters have been reminded of that recently through the ticketing debacle, where audible and visible protest became necessary because polite dissatisfaction was too easily brushed aside. The idea that support must always mean obedience is nonsense. Supporting a club properly does not mean accepting whatever the ownership, executives or PR machine decide to put in front of you. It means caring enough to object when standards drop. Saturday felt important because the anger did not come from a hashtag. It came from the stands. It came from supporters who'd watched Liverpool score early, then retreat into another performance without tempo, width, menace or conviction. It came when Rio, one of the players offering a spark, was taken off. It came again at the final whistle, louder and more damning. Slot said the player had cramp. Fine, that may explain the substitution. It does not explain the season. It does not explain why Liverpool keep looking outrun, outdueled, outthought. It does not explain why the midfield has become so easy to play through. It does not explain why a side built on intensity now looks so often as if it's waiting for permission to move. Then he says Slot's words are becoming part of the problem. The football is bad enough, the explanations make it worse. Slot's sarcasm after the Chelsea game, when questioned about Liverpool dropping off, landed badly because supporters are tired of being told that what they've seen is not what they've seen. He may not be instructing the team to retreat. That's hardly reassuring. If he's asking them to press, push up and play with aggression, and they repeatedly fail to do so, then the question becomes even more serious. Are the players ignoring him? Do they understand him? Can he not implement what he wants? Has belief gone? None of those answers help him. This has been one of the most troubling features of the campaign. Slot speaks as though events are happening to him, as though Liverpool's problems are weather conditions rather than coaching issues. There is always context, always mitigation, always an explanation. Too rarely is there ownership. His comment that Liverpool will be a different team next season felt like one of the first real acknowledgements that this team is currently not good enough. Yet, that was framed around the summer as if the transfer window can absolve the months of regression already on show. Yes, Liverpool have had injuries. Yes, the loss of Diogo Jota was a tragedy that no football club could simply absorb as if it was a routine setback. Yes, the squad has flaws and imbalances, but the eyes matter. Patterns still matter. The team function still matters. Liverpool have equalled a record loss haul this season. Those numbers are brutal, and FSG are numbers people. More than that, they're money people. When supporters turn, when supporters start to wince, when agents and prospective signings look at Anfield and see unrest, the equation changes. Now this next part, I want you to pay particular attention to if you can. and it says FSG must look beyond convenient briefings. So Eddie writes, we're told Slot is safe. We're told he'll get another season. We're told the club understands the difficulties and sees the bigger picture. I don't buy it's that simple. Of course, the internal messaging will protect him for now. That's how clubs operate. That's how PR operates. Tony Barrett now works from a different purse than he once did. His job is no longer to scrutinise Liverpool from the outside, it's to help manage the message from within. There is an old line of his from another time and another manager that scrutiny is inevitable when Liverpool are not playing well and results are poor. He was right then, he would be right now. The manager of Liverpool, whoever it is, has to accept that pressure. It comes with the power, the salary and the scale of the club. The truth hasn't expired because the person saying it now has a club email address. If there's an end of season review, Slot's position has to be on the agenda, not as a token of discussion, not as a polite exercise in protecting reputations. It has to be serious. If Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards are not prepared to make the hard call, then FSG may have to ask whether the problem goes beyond the dugout. Nothing should be off the table. Nothing should surprise me now, because this cannot be dressed up as a minor wobble. Liverpool fans have been watching this kind of football for around 18 months in one form or another, with the warning signs stretching back long before the final weeks of this season. The title win in 24-25 still matters. Slot deserves credit for that. Nobody flukes a Premier League title, but winning the league does not grant permanent immunity from scrutiny. Brendan Rodgers nearly won the league, then lost the crowd. Roy Hodgson never truly had it. Slot's case is different, but the danger is familiar. Once Anfield turns, it rarely turns back quickly. Liverpool need change before drift becomes damage. Ryan Gravenberch dismissing the boos after the match only added to the unease. It suggested a bubble, a distance between what players think is acceptable and what supporters are actually enduring. We've heard pointed comments from Mohamed Salah, Alexis McAllister, Curtis Jones, Andy Robertson and Virgil van Dijk across this troubled period. You do not need to be inside the dressing room to sense that all is not well beneath the surface. The Chelsea draw captured the whole mess. An early goal should have been a platform. Instead, Liverpool shrank. Chelsea, a side arriving in crisis, were allowed to grow into the game. The home team lacked urgency, the midfield lacked control. The situations lacked conviction. By the end, Anfield was not watching a side chasing victory, it was watching a side hoping the clock would be kind. That isn't Liverpool, at least it shouldn't be. The hardest part is that many of us are tired of saying it. I've been writing since November that Slot should be replaced. I'm bored of my own argument now, but the football keeps making it for me. Every week seems to bring another performance without rhythm, another press conference full of deflection, another reminder that this side is drifting. The owners can ignore me. My platform is tiny in the grand scheme. They can ignore online anger and dress it up as noise. They can even ignore awkward questions in the press room if they choose. They cannot ignore Anfield, not forever. Liverpool needs significant change this summer. That almost certainly means the manager. It may mean those above him. It may mean both. What it cannot mean is pretending that a few new signings and a sunny pre-season will automatically repair the damage. The crowd has spoken now, not in whispers, not through keyboards, but inside the ground. That changes the mood. It changes the pressure. It should change the conversation. Slot may believe he can win the supporters back. Perhaps he can. Football has a habit of making fools of certainty, but right now it requires a mighty leap of faith to look at this Liverpool side and see a revival waiting to happen. I see a club at a fork in the road, and I see no virtue in waiting until the damage is deeper. That's the piece from Eddie Gibbs that I wanted to highlight, and I think that lays out a lot of what we feel and a lot of what we think. It isn't just you. You aren't toxic. It isn't just being a good fan to sit there and say nothing. Speaking up shows you care, because you do care. And I think Eddie's piece puts it very well. Far better than I could explain it on here anyway. So your thoughts on that, very much welcome, and thank you for your time on that one. Hey Craig, I think Alonso will go to Chelsea. I don't think Alonso will go to Chelsea. So there's two ways to think about this one, Donal, and thank you, mate, for your membership with us as well. There's two ways to think about it. So firstly, there's the Liverpool side of it. If we aren't making any overtures toward Alonso seriously, well, then he has a decision to make on his career. What does he do? Moving Liverpool aside and parking it up, I honestly think that Chelsea would be a stupid move for Alonso, considering how unbalanced Chelsea is, how many managers they've gone through, the situation they're in. I think it would be a dangerous move for him after the Madrid situation. I think he needs something with a little bit more certainty at this point. But I'm not Alonso's agent. I've always said to you guys, do you think we feel a bit arrogant just sitting here thinking, assuming that Alonso's just going to wait and wait and wait? I don't know why Hughes and Edwards seem so intent on ignoring Alonso. But like I said to you guys earlier on, my gut feeling here is that they don't want somebody in with that much charisma, that much ability to bring fans together, to get the buy-in straight away, and maybe to want to wrestle more control as time goes on. I don't understand it. That should be the best case scenario. You bring in a coach, people get behind straight away. And if it's successful, then you would expect more power to be given in the same way with any coach. I don't know why they're so intent on sticking with their philosophy that he's the guy, when he clearly isn't, and Liverpool fans all around the world, inside Anfield and everywhere else, just see that it isn't good enough. And we can't just take the leap of faith to go, next season's going to be better. Why? Because you'll start lying to us again next season. You start telling us that it was obviously another transitional season 3 years in. It gets tiring. The excuses are boring. And I'm sick of being made to feel like I'm a toxic fan for wanting more, for wanting standards, for wanting Liverpool to conduct itself in the way we've always been led to believe Liverpool should. It's clear. The fans have spoken. We're the heartbeat of the club, like it or not. To put so much faith in people whose futures won't even be here, I find very, very worrying. So I hope that FSG really do step up here. And I hope that FSG really do a proper review at the end of the season. Because if they really are numbers people, if they really do care about the data, then nothing will point towards keeping Arne Slot in the job for another year. Nothing. Angie said, hey Craig, the anagram for Slot is lost. Fits him. There's just so many things, Angie, that I wonder, like the club must know that there's just not a connection there. Like come what may, the amount of people that you see saying they feel so disconnected to the club need to have a long hard look at this. Because they're gone out of their way to gaslight fans. They're going out of their way. Tony Barrett, like Eddie said in his piece, Tony Barrett used to write objectively about Liverpool. Now he writes from a club email address. So he's poacher turned gamekeeper. And this is over and over and over again. Neil Jones, another one that's now at the club that used to write objectively about it. These things can't be ignored. So let's look at what Melissa Reddy had to say. Because I think what Melissa Reddy said today is certainly worth bringing up. One sec. It's been a busy day, so there's a lot of notes here, folks. Bear with me. So, this is a little bit of what Melissa Reddy had to say. You can read her piece on her Substack. Melissa writes, Arne Slot is a Premier League title winner, yes, but the conditions for that triumph have disappeared. There are mitigations, yes, but Liverpool are no longer a team to fear. They are differential, they are obliging to the most embattled of sides. It's not just the style of play that's unrecognisable, but what this team stands for and how they're seen. And Melissa goes in that piece to talk about the fact that perhaps when they did their number crunching, when Jurgen's team was there, maybe Slot did come out on top of those metrics. But now I don't think so. She said, Slot, as Spearman's algorithm suggested, was perfect for the situation Liverpool, and then she puts in all caps, were in. That was then. It would be surprising if the algorithm found him top of the top for where the club are now, and their required direction of travel after a season which feels a betrayal, not just stylistically, but to every essence of defiance and courage that had defined this team for a decade. That's powerful. That is really, really powerful stuff from Melissa Reddy. Let me read that last bit out to you again. It would be surprising if the algorithm found him top of the top for where the club are now. and the required direction of travel after a season which feels like a betrayal, not just stylistically, but to the very essence of defiance and courage that had defined this team for a decade. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic from Melissa. Now, contrast that with Simon Hughes and Simon Hughes' piece in The Athletic. And part of that Simon writes, since November, discussions about Slot's suitability have become binary, with online e-reds framed as being more impatient with tending to want him gone, while matchgoers have remembered for longer what he helped deliver last season when Liverpool became champions. Yes, it would seem that Arne is also setting for such discord. Are you fucking serious? Like, e-reds. That's where we're going, is it? That's to bring us together. E-reds. It's fucking pathetic. It really is. And I've said it to you for years. They don't think of you as a real fan. They think of you as a nuisance. They think of you as a cash machine. Something that allows them to continue to go, have their access, go with their mates, just to bring you back to the ticketing thing. So FSG backed down on the 3% increase, except for this year, for the season ticket holders. But they didn't back down for the general sale. But they don't care about those fans. Like I've said, where's Spirit of Shankly and all protesting about people that aren't their mates? You won't see it because it doesn't exist. I will once again say what others won't say. There are some fans who are only out for them and their mates, and they don't give a fuck that you have to pay hundreds of pounds to get a hospitality ticket or a travel package. They don't give a shit. As long as they don't have to pay £1.50 more to go to a game, they couldn't give a fuck about you or anybody else that isn't part of their little clique. These are the awkward things that too many people have ignored for a long time, and I'm not going to. I'm going to take it head on, and I'm going to take any abuse that comes my way, because I know that there's too many people that are fucking fed up of this garbage, fed up of being made to feel like they're just a cash machine that isn't entitled to an opinion. It's pathetic. Eco Trailblazer said Liverpool is a mirror image of Labour. It needs new leaders. Well, we're not going to get into politics on the channel. There's something we do avoid because it's a very divisive subject, and I don't think it befits us on here to start talking about those things. But I understand where you're coming from with it. I do get the point you're making. Kia Doyle said, I'm so mad. The board's still saying that they're sticking with Slot. I can't deal with this. And Alonso going to Chelsea makes it even worse. I'm not sure if he does go to Chelsea or not, but they are interested. And they are having those conversations. That's something we do have to say. But like you've said there, Chia, or Sia, excuse me, I'm not sure which way to pronounce it. It's just like we're being gaslit. Like, I always try and simplify the points I want to make, to try and make them as compact and impactful as possible. And what I would say to you around this whole situation is, you and I and everybody in the chat and every Liverpool fan around the world, we didn't describe Hughes and Edwards as the decision makers that looked at data that removed emotion. That was them. That was what was being described. That was what was being written about. Now, here we are in a situation where everybody and their dog can see that Liverpool are terrible. Everybody can see, stylistically, we're a million miles away from not only the Liverpool way, but in recognising what we're seeing out there on the pitch from the players and the effort. And now they're trying to say that they're just keeping them come what may. So they're apparently willing to ignore all the numbers, all the data, and all the things that they were given credit for is now being just chucked away because we have to just trust them. Why? Why are you so afraid to admit you got it wrong? Why are you so willing to put Liverpool fans through another season or part of a season with a manager that everybody knows doesn't cut it and doesn't connect? Why? It has to be their own hubris. It has to be their own egos. Or that they just don't want people coming in who have the backing of the fans immediately and who may try to wrestle some power from the situation. The whole thing is so fucking dodgy and scummy and slimy that it's embarrassing to think it's our football club. What's this one? I now feel hardly anything when we score or concede. You're not on your own. It's horrible. It's horrible because you're met with this, you've got this internal dilemma. You want to see Liverpool win, but you know if we win, the articles and the push is going to be out to say, look at this, Slot's turning it. Again, I want to remind you of James Pearce's post that I talk about so often, that came out after Liverpool had finally started to win a few games of football, and James Pearce couldn't write this quick enough. Said those with short memories and little patience who were calling for change have been muted as Slot has breathed new life into a managerial reign which had veered so alarmingly off course. So if you're willing to write that, James, when he wins a few games, why aren't you willing to write anything complaining? Or anything about the 18 games we've lost? Or anything about fans absolutely not believing in him? Or anything about the transfer window being a fucking shambles? I know why you won't write it. Everybody in the chat knows why you won't write it. You won't write it because that's bye-bye access. Bye-bye little interviews, little exclusive. So if you want to continue to be disingenuous towards your readership and paint everybody online as toxic, it ain't going to end well because it's your own credibility that's in the fucking bin. And again, it's so embarrassing. Why are these people so afraid of having an honest, upfront conversation? If there's numbers, data, anything that shows why he should be kept, share it, talk about it, say it. There isn't, there won't be, because it doesn't exist. There is no reason to keep him. There is no data that shows he's trending in the right direction. Nothing. And that's before you talk about the eye test. These people are absolutely delusional. And they have the fucking cheek to think that they can belittle the rest of us on a daily basis. E-fans, toxic, online, fuck you. All of you. Each and every last one of you, you cowardly little fucks. I hope that's clear, because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I will not, as a Liverpool fan, sit by and seeing our club bastardised by people who haven't got a backbone. People who hide away in Hughes and Edwards, who don't front up, who don't acknowledge fans, who brief their friends in the media and go about their slimy, grimy, greasy little business in the shadows. Not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. You can blacklist me, threaten me, do as much fucking shit as you want. I don't care. I work long and hard to build this platform up with honesty and with strong opinions. And I'm not on my own. There's a reason why more people are coming to this channel every single month. It's because they're so fed up of being lied to, manipulated against, and then you have the cheek to say, the likes of Dominic King, that we know what we're doing on here. Yes, Dominic, we do. We're telling the fucking truth. That's what we're doing. And the fact that people are latching onto it ain't my problem. Don't like it? Counteract it. Give me another opinion. Tell me why I'm wrong. You don't just get to belittle us. Tell us why we're wrong. You won't be able to because you know deep down we're not wrong. Charles, for the first time, I won't be getting a new kit as the club and their decisions have made me disheartened, especially keeping Slot. Calling us E-fans is rich considering it's impossible to get a ticket. That's it though, isn't it, Charles? Like, that's the stick that we get beaten with all the time. Don't go to the game, you're an armchair fan. How am I supposed to get tickets? If you wanted to go, you could get tickets. Cool. Well, I paid 700 and something quid for my United ticket for a hospitality one. Am I entitled to an opinion yet? No. Why? Because you didn't grow up in Liverpool. That's it. That's it over and over and over and over and over and over again. I get it on here every week. I get it in my DMs. I get it in my emails. I get it all the time. The top Reds that think because they fell out of their mother's vagina in a Liverpool postcode that they somehow get to dictate to me how I feel about this football club and whether my opinion is valid. Not happening. Fuck you. And I'm going to keep saying it. Fuck each and every last one of you that think you get to look down your noses at us and think our opinion doesn't count. Fuck you. Right, let's get into some transfer talk. Bear with me, folks. I'm just getting my notes in order, and then we'll get stuck into some transfer chat. There was even a little bit of plane spotting on the go earlier on, by the way. Nicholas Bieber has come back out again, who said Liverpool meeting Alonso on a private jet scheduled to fly from Norholt to the London HQ, San Sebastian, where Alonso lives. I don't think there's anything to that one, to be fair, but I do love a bit of plane tracking. It makes things a bit exciting. Right, so let's talk. Which one's best one to come up with first? Here's one, actually. I was reading a few pieces earlier on about the situation with VAR at the minute, and obviously with the Arsenal-West Ham game yesterday, there was a lot of talk about VAR and the decision-making process. But are on-field refs ducking big decisions because of VAR was one of the polls. I voted on this. Now, the numbers could have changed since I voted on it, but my vote in this poll was yes. And 92% of people at the time that I voted on that one said yes, they do think referees are ducking, making big decisions because of VAR. And I think that's a feeling that many people have at the minute about referees and VAR. And again, we haven't even gotten into the slow motion replay stuff yet. Did you see Ref Watch today? I didn't watch it, but I read the transcript of it. And to see them again saying the first contact was on Raya, I didn't know what they're looking at. It's absolute nonsense. The first contact in that penalty area was not on David Raya. Not by a long way. The mental gymnastics these guys jumped through to try to justify sticking up for referees is absolutely insane. They've been at that all season. Arsenal have been doing it all season. The Premier League's been physical all season. You've all seen the many examples. This isn't an anti-Arsenal thing, by the way. This is just, again, us being gaslit to see games and outcomes being manipulated right in front of our eyes. And we're all just supposed to take it. It's crazy. It's absolute lunacy. You had to look at that for 5 minutes in slow-mo from 9 different angles or something to come up with that. Come up with a way to try and justify a decision. It's really, like, football is in a weird place right now, where apparently honesty isn't welcome. Transparency isn't welcome. So I read a piece on Sky, which is a really good analysis of Liverpool's current situation and how bad we've been this season. And I just want to read some of this out to you. It was written by Adam Bate on Sky, and he was talking about the game against Chelsea. And he said, when it was over, Liverpool had amassed an expected goals total of 0.56, the lowest since a tight win over Arsenal in August. You have to go back to 2021 for the previous occasion they created so little at home, and there were no fans in the stadium for that. This is an inconvenient truth for Slaw, given he has frequently framed this season as a finishing problem. He is not adverse to mentioning expected goals, but Liverpool actually rank 7th in the Premier League on this metric, their worst rank in a decade. Now remember, Slot's saying that's why we've been unlucky. We're not finishing, but yet we're only ranking 7th, the lowest position we've been in there in expected goals in a decade. So again, his argument is bullshit. Next up, he was talking about Chelsea's interim manager after the game, and he said, McFarlane, after the game against Liverpool, it was a chance to ask him whether he specifically targeted the opposition's right side as a weakness to exploit. And he said, it was definitely something that we knew. Curtis Jones, a natural midfielder, was operating in what has been a problem position for Liverpool this season. Marc Cucurella, a left wing-back by trade, was deployed in an advanced role ahead of Jarell Haddo and proved to be a real outlet throughout the game. 49% of Chelsea's attack came down our right-hand side, 23% through the middle and 28% on the right. Goes on to say, Cucurella had 6 touches inside the opposition box at Anfield. No player on the pitch had more. In fact, it was the Spaniard's 148th Premier League appearance. It was only one fewer than his record number of touches in any game in the competition. Cucurella is not a winger. He played there before, but even when he plays left back or rolls into midfield, his movement off the ball is really high quality, and the timing and understanding of when to do it, explained McFarlane. So it's very clear that they set up to attack our right-hand side. And again, we had a chance to sort out the right-back position, and we thought we had. We thought Frimpong had come in to be the backup right-back or a contender in that position. And now that Slot has decided once again that another player isn't good enough in that area, we're supposed to just continue to watch midfielders being shoehorned in there and us being rinsed all the time? So, like I've said many times, folks, if they want to talk about this season and the failures, they need to do it honestly, because the data and the numbers are actually being put out there now by journalists that don't have an affiliation to the club, by journalists that don't have to worry about access to the club. And the numbers don't lie. The numbers show that his excuses don't wash, the football isn't good enough, and the fans are very much not on board. Paid £300 for the Barnsley game. Prices are crazy. I don't know the exact price of it because Brian got some of the tickets. I paid for some of the hotels. It was all muddled in together when I went over. But I think it was about £750 or £790 for the lounge tickets for the United game. Just for the ticket. It's crazy. It's great, but you're not allowed an opinion, you know? You're not allowed to have a say. You're toxic if you dare say anything against the grain. Paddy Wacker said, we were all told VAR was brought in to help stuff refs might have missed. It was made out to be the best thing since sliced bread. Sorry to take VAR and shove it. It's disgusting to see it. Juice. It's just being manipulated again. That's all it is. You know, VAR's just been another tool that has been used to manipulate. You know, I don't understand how every summer the PGMOL can sit there and interpret rules and come out with some horseshit. Like at the very start of this season, and I don't know if I still have this in my notes, but at the very start of this season, Howard Webb said that they were going to be tackling grappling in the penalty area. Now, where's that gone? Where's the tackling of it? Because this has been the season that it's been at its very, very worst. And in the biggest moment, with the whole eyes of the world on it, you go and you give a foul for something that's been used in every game. And if you want to start being that forensic with stuff, then there's going to be about 19 penalties in every single game. And there should have been at least 3 penalties before Raya even got near that ball, if you want to be that forensic and look to the grappling. Timbani said, Defo, feel the gaslighting from Ornstein on X today. I wish everybody knew the relationships and how they work, because club sources say is a very blasé term. Club sources tell me that. Yeah, but who are the sources? And what skin have they got in the game? And what narrative do they want pushed? These are questions that should be asked. So when he says that, it's important to know where he's getting the information from and who's giving it to him. And that's why anything that comes from The Athletic these days, I just laugh at. Because in my opinion, and I have to state that it's my opinion, I think that they just toe the company line. Push a narrative that they want pushed. That's how I see it. Hate latest news. We can't let Alonso go to Chelsea. Just stick with this clown. It's pathetic. I'm sad and I'm angry. Alonso doesn't fit Chelsea. We have to boo even louder. Look, I've always said to you, mate, I'm okay if they look at the manager situation and don't think Alonso's the best fit. I'm not sitting here to try and convince the world that Alonso's the only guy that's worth considering. There are certainly many others. The only part of this that I feel really angry about is the fact that they're just trying to convince us that it's going to get better and it isn't. That's it. All I want at this point is the manager gone. And who they pick after that or who the club look at, that's another conversation. But at this point, just do the right thing. Stop with the arrogance. Just do the right thing and get rid of the coach that nobody wants to see. The guy said, the E-Red show is just Scousers using a tag for non-locals. Some Scousers aren't very welcoming. Sorry, but that's how I feel. It's always our fault. It's a very tough subject to discuss, isn't it? Because, as you've said, some Scousers are very elitist. It has to be said. It's not a Liverpool only problem. It's a problem that I know Manchester United fans feel and other fan bases. But this is why I keep pushing back when they talk about the spirit of Shankly or all of these fan representatives. They only represent their mates, a small section of fans. That's it. The rest of us can just go to hell. And I'm fed up of it. And you're right. It is a label to knock us. The atmosphere inside Anfield shit, it's the day trippers, the tourists. Well, what about the 31,000 season ticket holders? Do they not have a fucking part to play in this? No, it's all us. When it's great, it's all them. When it's shit, it's all us. That's it. So your lived experience, mate, is the same lived experience as me. Now, it isn't everybody, and I would go out of my way to say it isn't everybody. Of course not. There is many, many, many amazing people who are very welcoming. But we have to admit that there is some powerful influence over this elitist nonsense. That, there should be absolute certainty of tickets for a certain group of people, but everybody else can scramble around for what's left and pay whatever the cost. But just shut up and don't have an opinion at the same time. Now, we do, again, got to make sure we say, it isn't everybody. There is a subsection of Scousers, yes. Same as there's a subsection of Manx that think Manchester United should be all about the local fans, but those days are gone. Of course there should be a local heartbeat. Of course there should. Nobody's trying to deny that. But how is it that asking for everyone to be treated the same or to be even included in the conversation is such a dirty thing? I don't see that it should be, and I don't see that it needs to be. Because once we're divided, once we're all arguing with each other, we're not focusing on the important things. We're not focusing on the executives, the performances, the lack of transfer activity or the mistakes in the transfer market. We're too busy arguing with each other and being distracted. And that allows them to just carry on. So we got to come together. And that's all I say in this. Of course fans should be represented. All fans should be represented, not just the chosen few. Andy, how are you, my man? 42 months. No way they can F off with their E-Red or E-Fan. F no. Keep up the good work, Craig. You're an inspiration and your community is the best. Well, Andy, as always, my man, thank you. Appreciate all of your support, man. 42 months is incredible. Sonder, thank you as well, mate. Appreciate that. And I'm sorry if there were ones that I was delayed in getting to. That long article that I read out obviously meant that I had to circle back around. Dean said, Craig, you're a good role model, bro. Honestly, I try to be. As mad as it sounds. I get a pain in me hoop being described as being negative and toxic. I'm far from it. But I do, and I will always admit, that I do have high standards. I do have an expectation. You didn't hear me complain in the Klopp era. You didn't hear me complaining even in the poor time. Because I love the man and I knew where we were going. I knew the direction. I knew that we were in good hands. As we all did. So I don't understand how we've gotten here. And I don't understand how all this sentiment is being ignored. But again, we're not getting communication, are we? From the club, other than briefing their little friendly journos. This is all just tactics from the Alonso camp, isn't it? I don't know. I honestly haven't got a clue. When it was sent to me first about the conversations, I have to admit, Itachi, I did think, is this Alonso's camp doing a Ruben Amorim when he went and talked to West Ham, trying to force the hand? But there could very well be a situation where they just don't want Alonso. You know, we have to be honest about that as well and say that that could be part of this. Now, why they don't want Alonso, I guess, would be an interesting discussion. But, you know, I've never been one that thought it's only Alonso. At this point, I just want to stop the rot and get rid of the manager that's failing. And not just failing on the pitch. He's failing to even ingratiate himself to the fans. He's failing to take ownership or acknowledge his own failings. Leona said, "Hey Craig, just wanted to say, love your streams. You're an escape from the pressure of my leaving cert and really enjoy your freshness. Keep it up. Thank you." It's been a tough one. It's especially the last few months, you know, because I thought, and I still hold some hope, that Saturday, and the audible boos will be enough. Now, of course, there's one more home game to come, but it's not going to be toxic in that because it's the end of the season. It's the end of Mo. It's the end of Robbo. You know, it's time to say goodbye to some legends. But it can't go on. They cannot keep him in a job just because they're too stubborn to admit they were wrong. Cal said, Ornstein quotes really ain't that deep. The club aren't going to say they're sacking Arna until the day they actually do go and give Ornstein the scoop. No one's saying they're that deep. But what I am saying to you, mate, is they are intentional. And they are unnecessary. Because like I've said before, if you're so adamant that he's your guy, and you're so adamant that he's going to put it right, give him a contract. And I've said it for months now, mate. Give him a new deal and that shuts everybody up. That shows your faith in him. That shows your belief in him. So, why not do that? It's not hard to figure out. If you trust yourself, if you believe in him, give him a new deal. But there's a reason you're not giving him a new deal. Like I said, so it is deep, mate, because it's done with intent. And it's disingenuous. So, to me, it is deep because I'm fed up of these people who are supposed to be journalists just parroting what the club want them to say. Where's the objectivity? Where's the critical questions? Where's the pushback? You know, when it takes the likes of Melissa Reddy, who doesn't have a Liverpool-centric focus, to say it from the outside, and Chris Williams and others, I think that tells you where we're at now. Anyone that has a press pass and goes to the game has to play the game. Because I'm telling you, they don't fucking like what they're looking at. They don't like what they're watching. They know it isn't good enough. Jack said, Slot out, never felt up for watching Liverpool, felt disconnected with Slot for just over half the season. So let me go into transfer news now and let me go through some of these comments. So let's talk, where are we on here? Let's talk Senesi for a second. Ben Jacobs on Gimme Sport was saying that Marcus Senesi has an agreement in principle with Spurs if they stay up. However, Liverpool are contemplating whether to hijack that deal. There's also Peter O'Rourke said this about Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe is attracting renewed interest from a number of Premier League clubs, including Liverpool, amid the fallout at Real Madrid. The Reds are one of a select few who could afford the Frenchman, whose future will be decided when a new manager arrives. So 76% of people said they did feel annoyed by being described as E-Reds or E-fans, and 24% said no. Now, let's do an Mbappe poll. So, would you want Mbappe at Liverpool? I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let the poll work away so people can have their own say, and then I'll circle back around to it and give you my take on it when the poll's done its thing. Fede Valverde. LFC Transfer Room said, according to Ramon Alvarez, some locker room heavyweights are now asking Real Madrid to sell Federico Valverde this summer. And then they asked the question, would you want him at Liverpool? Absolutely yes, from me on Valverde. Oh, I would say I would swim over to Madrid. That's not happening. I would escort him back from Madrid to Liverpool in a heartbeat. And this goes back, and again, I'm not saying there's interest, but the question they posed was, would you take him? And absolutely yes, I would, in a heartbeat. And I know Jurgen was a big fan as well of Fede Valverde. He's, I think he's an incredible footballer. I've always been a fan of his. So the goalkeeping situation, Anfield Edition posted crediting Pavan Massimo, who said Liverpool are planning an overhaul of the goalkeeping department this summer, with Alisson looking increasingly likely to move to Juventus. The two names here, though, I mean, they don't excite me. They say PSG's Lucas Chevalier is one candidate to come in, while Aston Villa's Emiliano Martinez is also being monitored. Now, something about the Emi Martinez thing just kind of popped into my head earlier on. So, if we are to believe that the club still view Georgie as the number one and that their faith in him is intact, I don't see how you could convince the likes of Emi Martinez to come in. Because any goalkeeper like that is surely going to want to come and play. Now, you've got Lucas Chevalier, who went into PSG as Gianluigi Donnarumma's replacement and very quickly has fallen out of favour. So I don't know what his mindset or outlook would be. But I certainly do know that if you're looking to bring in the likes of Emi Martinez, he's going to want to come in to play, to be the number one. And, you know, I don't really know how this one all plays out. I know what I think should happen. I'd like to see Alisson kept for another year, but like I've said, trying to be objective about it, if Alisson's open-minded to going to Juventus and Liverpool think that they are comfortable with Georgie, then maybe get a transfer fee and, you know, fast-track Georgie into being the starting goalkeeper position. Because, look, if you play devil's advocate here and you play it out and you think, no, I want Alisson to stay, which I think deep down we probably all do, we have to acknowledge that there could be large periods of time where these muscle injuries keep popping back up over the next year, and that could end in some frustration as well. So I really don't envy whoever has to make the decision at the club on this one, because it is a tricky one. But I would also go back a little bit further and say it is a problem somewhat of the club's own making, in the way that the goalkeeper situation has panned out over the last 2 years, from a position where we were incredibly strong in depth to one now where we're, you know, at least not fully sold on Georgie being ready and unsure of number twos if Alisson goes. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Let's talk about Frank Leboeuf. Speaking to ESPN, this piece here said, former World Cup winner Frank Leboeuf, speaking to ESPN, said, I don't think the Liverpool board will wait, especially because they have Xabi Alonso available. Why will they wait for Slot to find something different? I think they're going to get rid of him. I think they're going to get Xabi Alonso and all the fans will be very happy. You see, that's the common sense thing. But like I've said before, there seems to be a real caution around Alonso from Hughes and Edwards. And like I've said before, I have my own take on why it might be, but we don't know exactly why it is. Granit Xhaka was speaking about the early days working under Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen, and he said this: he had no experience, but had charisma and character. These next few lines, though, are what really stood out to me. When he spoke in the dressing room, everybody paid full attention. He wants fighters. If you train well, you get your chance. That's what I admire most about Xabi Alonso. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? Train hard, work hard, you'll get your chance. Again, to go back to Melissa Reddy's piece, Arne Slot is a Premier League title winner, yes, but the conditions for that triumph have disappeared. There are mitigations, yes, but Liverpool are no longer a team to fear. They're differential. They're obliging to the most embattled of sides. It's not just the style of play that's unrecognisable, but what the team stands for and how they're seen. She goes on to say that slot, as Spearman's algorithm, Will Spearman, she's speaking about here, as Spearman's algorithm suggested, was perfect for the situation that Liverpool were in. That was then. It would be surprising if the algorithm found him top of the top for where the club are now. And the required direction of travel after a season which feels a betrayal, not just stylistically, but to the very essence of defiance and courage that had defined the team for a decade. Now, how is it that a journalist like Melissa can say that so emphatically and correctly about it being a betrayal stylistically and in defiance of the courage that this Liverpool team have had for the last decade? You can't ignore that if you're the club. And I'm so grateful that there are journalists like Melissa who are starting to really question what's happening here, question the motives of it, the sense of it, because it is crazy. You know, if we want to be a successful club, if we want Liverpool to really have the best chance of success, you do need the buy-in of fans. And I'm not saying the fans should dictate everything, but you can't consistently ignore all these fans, all these opinions, all the sentiment, all the pain, all the frustration, and keep making excuses in the hope that it will come good. Because the thing I don't know if they understand is quite how deep that disconnect towards the manager is. And it comes down to a personality thing. And it isn't that he's not Jurgen Klopp. It's that he just doesn't feel right. Just doesn't inspire fans, doesn't unite us, doesn't bring us on a journey with him. It feels like, and I've said this before, he thinks he's doing us a favour being here. And it always felt a little bit weird. There was a guy called Farrell Keeling who posted about the article from Melissa Reddy. And in the piece, there's a line that stood out to him as well. And he said, the popularity that Alonso would automatically command. My view on this is simple. If you're hiring a new coach, you get the best possible option on the market. If data proves me wrong, then so be it. But you would think that is Xabi Alonso. And then Farrell Keeling, posted and said, brilliant read from Melissa Reddy on her Substack, and this is troubling. And then he quotes part of Melissa's article and said, while there are doubts around the 44-year-old Xabi Alonso's coaching ceiling, as he's in the embryonic stage of his career and he's not yet the slam dunk portrayed, is part of the issue also the popularity that he would command. Now, I mentioned this to you guys earlier on. That's what it feels like. That Xabi being that popular is somehow being looked at as a negative. Why? Like, are you that insecure as people that you don't want a manager who everybody will be excited about and who might drag us on a journey with them and who might make the standards on the training ground and on the pitch visible? What's wrong with that? Why are they so afraid of that? It's weird. And also, another piece from that Simon Hughes part, he said, maybe some of Anfield's great myths are now being exposed, and this is simply homogenisation. The consequences of prices, the impact they have on demographics, demands and atmospheres. Maybe this is just what everyone does now, and maybe Liverpool and Anfield is no different. Like, that is the biggest load of bollocks. It's just like, oh, well, you know, because we're not the same as we were 20 years ago, and maybe Anfield's changed now. Maybe we're not different anymore, because me and my friends can't play, and maybe we're not different anymore. Maybe we're just the same. It's just like, if I fucking came out with that, I'd be laughed at. It's so pathetic. It's just so negative. It's so defeatist. I mean, what's the point of it? Anfield is different. He knows it, I know it, you know it. And maybe it has changed somewhat, but that comes with, as he said, the prices, the gouging, the constant gaslighting. Football fans now are paying top dollar to watch football. They expect to be entertained. They expect to feel connected. So when you see dross served up, it shouldn't be pointed at maybe it's all the same now. Maybe we should be looking at the executives that have put us in this situation. Maybe they deserve a little bit of scrutiny rather than saying again, maybe Anfield's just no different now. It's just so stupid and silly. Thank you for gifting a membership, G or Xmit. Appreciate you. Mark Douglas of the newspaper said, Xabi Alonso has emerged as the frontrunner for the Chelsea job. The Spaniard is open to the prospect of a move to Stamford Bridge. Ian Ladyman said on Slot's future, the noise from within Anfield is that Slot will survive the summer. If he does, then it would still be an achievement if he makes it past next November. Now, come on. So even there, Ian Ladyman, who, is saying that the noises coming out of Anfield are still that he's saying, he's putting it straight out there into the world to say the real surprise and the real achievement would be if he's still in the job come November. So even predicting what we all know, that it's going to end in a shambles, it's going to be another mess, it's going to be a situation that we have to struggle to get out of, and they could preempt it now, but they refuse to because of what? Ben Jacobs, speaking about the Chelsea job, said this: understand Chelsea hope to appoint a successor to replace Liam Senior before the World Cup starts. Xabi Alonso is currently a leading contender, and Chelsea have already made contact with the former Real Madrid and Leverkusen boss. Alonso is keen on a Premier League job this summer. Fulham's Marco Silva and outgoing Bournemouth boss Andoni Iraola both remain on the list. Crystal Palace's Oliver Glasner and ex-Flamenco boss Felipe Luis are names under consideration, as Matt Law and Sammy Mockbell called. Lewis was a name on Chelsea's list and discussed before appointing Senior, with talks eventually centring on a potential switch to Strasbourg prior to Gary O'Neill's appointment. And Cesc Fabregas and Francesco Fariola both have admirers. However, Fabregas said he's in no rush to leave Como, while sources close to Fariola insist he'll remain in Portugal. Then there was a gentleman called John that was quote tweeting a piece from Simon Hughes' article using the term E-Reds, and it says, E-fans is such an insult and kick in the teeth to millions around the world who follow Liverpool, love Liverpool, and dedicate their lives to Liverpool Football Club, travel all over to watch Liverpool, passionate towards Liverpool, because people dare question the manager's ineptitude. Yep. Again. But, apparently it's okay to take shots at fans, but we're the toxic ones. This a little bit of what Ornstein said on recruitment. He said Liverpool want to recruit for Arne Slot this summer, in particular in the winger position. I would expect one or two to come in. They think that'll be crucial, and once they've come in, that's when you can perhaps judge Slot more fairly. Fuck off, you absolute spanner! Are we ignoring that he could have got these wingers last summer, and the brain trust decided we didn't fucking need them because they didn't want to block the pathway for Rio? And now all of a sudden, we can only judge Arne after he gets the wingers. The wingers that he didn't want. The wingers that they didn't go and get. These people are fucking insane. Are you seriously saying that with a straight face, David? Really? That we can only judge him after... He's got 250 or 200 million quid worth of strikers, and we still are looking like we couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo. He got 450 million quid's worth of fucking talent. If they were so concerned about the wingers, why didn't they try and do something when Semenyo was on the market? The absolute spoofery that goes on is beyond comprehension. Fuck me. Matt Barlow said Liverpool are strong contender for Jared Bowen. And I hope that's the case. I really, really do, because I'm a huge admirer of Jared Bowen, as you guys know. Romano said, confirmed, Alonso and Liverpool are not in conversations. As I said 2 days ago, Liverpool are supporting Arne Slot. If something changes during the end of season review, I'll let you know. But at the moment, Alonso's not talking to Liverpool and they keep supporting Arne Slot. Chelsea have yet to decide who they want. Don't know what else to say other than, you know, the club are basically doing this to the whole fan base. They are. They're saying, despite the fact that all of you millions of Liverpool fans around the world aren't happy with what you're seeing, don't feel a connection to the fans, or don't feel a connection to the manager, feel like you're being disenfranchised from the club, we're going to just double down on it because we know best. Oh, and also, we don't want to be here in a year's time, so, you know, we'll be off in Saudi or somewhere while you're stuck with this fucking spoofer. Being called an E-fan is quite disgusting considering I have to travel across continents to watch matches, plus paying for increasing ticket prices. Crazy. I know. It's so short-sighted as well, dude, because without any club having a fan base around the world, it doesn't exist in the modern age. It doesn't compete in the modern age, you know? And if you look at the growth that has come and that FSG are looking to tap into in emerging markets and all the stores they're opening around the world and all the people's money that they want, you can't then belittle people by calling them E-fans or E-Reds. It really is, it shows, it's so short-sighted and antagonizing, and there's just no need for it. Toshkop said, Craig, I actually despise Edward Hughes and Slot. Those three are disgusting. I've never felt more disconnected from this club in my life. It really does feel like those three are acting with way too much power, particularly Hughes Edwards, obviously. It's so crazy. Like, they're just so... FSG must be either delusional or over-trusting. But the guys that they have put in to run the club are making a holy fucking show of them. And making a hames of it. And are driving fans away. And like I've said, I hope to God people don't spend money. And don't buy the new kits. And don't buy all the extra stuff for next season. And vote with their feet and their wallets. And keep being active on social media. And keep speaking out. Because as Eddie's piece so brilliantly puts it, criticising doesn't mean you're a bad fan. It means that you care. And it's because you want the best for the club. And because you can see the failings. You know what needs to be done. So never doubt yourself. Never feel like your voice doesn't matter. Most importantly, as Mo said on his t-shirt, never give up. Because giving up allows these fuckers to continue on the path that they are. To manipulating us. To trying to justify their own failures. It's just, you deserve better. We all deserve better. Medusa Cascade said, not even a Liverpool fan, but your sporting directors stress me out. Yeah, it's so tough, mate. It really is. I want to just check back in through one second. I'm just scrolling back through my notes here for a second. So I want to read one subsection for people who are maybe coming in a bit late from Eddie Gibbs' brilliant article that he wrote today. The link to the article, by the way, is in the description of this stream if you'd like to give it a full read. This is some of what Eddie had to say, and this is just one section of it. FSG must look beyond convenient briefings. We're told Slot is safe. We're told he'll get another season. We're told the club understands the difficulties and sees the bigger picture. Eddie writes, I don't buy that it's that simple. Of course, the internal messaging will protect the manager for now. That's how clubs operate. That's how PR operates. Tony Barrett now works from a different purse than he once did. To give you context, Tony Barrett used to work and write objectively about Liverpool. Now he works for the club. His job is no longer to scrutinise Liverpool from the outside, to help manage the message from within. There is an old line of his from another time and another manager, it was Brendan Rodgers, that scrutiny is inevitable when Liverpool are not playing well and results are poor. He was right then. He would be right now. The manager of Liverpool, whoever he is, has to accept the pressure. It comes with power, salary, and the scale of the club. The truth hasn't expired because the person saying it now has a club email address. If there is an end of season review, Slott's position has to be on the agenda. Not a token discussion, not a polite exercise in protecting reputations. It has to be serious. If Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards are not prepared to make the hard call, then FSG may have to ask whether the problem goes beyond the dugout. Nothing should be off the table. Nothing would surprise me now, because this cannot be dressed up as a minor wobble. Liverpool fans have been watching this kind of football for around 18 months in one form or another, with the warning signs stretching back long before the final weeks of this season. The title win in 24-25 still matters. Slot deserves credit for that. Nobody flukes a Premier League title, but winning the league does not grant permanent immunity from scrutiny. Brendan Rodgers nearly won the league, then lost the crowd. Roy Hodgson never truly had it. Slot's case is different, but the danger is familiar. Once Anfield turns, it rarely turns back quickly. So, like I've said, it isn't just us. It isn't just a few people. This is endemic in the fan base. The discontent with the manager. Benon said, genuinely worry about Champions League next season. Villa and Brentford next. I really think we'll lose both games. Can't see Slot getting a tune out of them. I don't know what to expect for the Villa game. Benon is the honest answer. I mean, there's a couple of variables in it. You've got Villa, obviously, will have an eye on the Europa League final. So I don't know what happens there. You know, how strong do they go? Are they already mentally preparing for that? And then, of course, you've got the final game of the season, like you've mentioned, Brentford at home. And I just don't see a world where we don't get a result that day. You know, Salah's last game, Robbo's last game. I just think everything will come together that day at the very least. But it is definitely more difficult than it should have been. You know, we should have beaten Chelsea and that should have been that. But unfortunately, it wasn't. Chancelada Mojida said, "Hey, everyone came in late. Who called us E-fans?" Let me give you the proper context of it, so I'm not accused of taking a quote out of Turn or anything. 1 second. The short answer is Simon Hughes, but let me give you the quote. So this is the quote, which is taken from his piece in The Athletic. Since November, discussions about Slot's suitability have become binary, with online, and then in quotation marks, E-Reds framed as being more impatient and tending to want him gone, while matchgoers have remembered for longer what he helped deliver last season when Liverpool became champions. Yet it would now seem that Anfield is also setting for such discord. Basically, because everybody isn't just giving him carte blanche to shit the bed after winning the league, you know, E-fans, you know, the ones that aren't in the stadium, we turn quicker apparently than the ones in the stadium. And now all of a sudden, you know, Anfield isn't what it once was. That's the whole point of this bullshit piece. Anfield's no different now than any other stadium. Fans are just going in that direction. The whole thing is just divisive and pathetic. But again, this is what I expect from people who only look after the self-serving interests of them and their mates and a certain subsection of fans. Imagine calling people E-Reds or E-fans. It's just so unnecessary. And it's just so unbecoming. Someone said, Craig, have you said anything about the Jota Memorial? No, I haven't, because it's hard to explain without having the image. But basically, the club unveiled plans today for, let me just read out what the BBC said, and that'll be easier for you. And it's a wonderful structure, by the way. 1 sec. Maybe I can bring it on screen, actually. Hang on. Don't know if I have the image here. 1 second. No, we don't actually have the image. Yeah. So the club have unveiled a sculpture that will be put outside Anfield to honour the memory of Diogo and Andre. And the sculpture, depending on which angle you're standing at it, it either shows the love heart, Diogo celebration, or the numbers 20 and 30. And I think personally, my view on it is I think it's wonderful. I applaud the club for doing it. I applaud the sentiment behind it, and the execution of it as well seems really good. So yeah, definitely worth a little search if you haven't seen it already. And thank you for bringing it up. I just didn't know how to raise it without showing the actual thing itself. But yeah, it's wonderful, and I applaud the club for it. It's brilliant. You know, it's obviously such a tragedy and a shame that it's happened, and it has to even be put up. We wish Diogo and his brother were still with us, obviously. I'd love to know who, and I'm sure it will be put out, but who actually made the sculpture, because it really is a wonderful thing. It's really good. It's beautiful. Pasky said, last time I checked, footy is about winning. Unfortunately, the club aren't doing that at the moment. Slot has run out of ideas. Stop the rot. I don't understand why or what people back this shambles. It's weird, isn't it? You know, it is weird, because this isn't just impatient people that just, want change immediately and quickly. As Eddie pointed out, and as many people have said, this is something that hasn't just been this season. You know, the problem started probably in the final 4 months of last season, when seemingly the training methods changed around that time, the intensity's dropped off, and the fight just hasn't been the same. Now, we kind of were somewhat blinded to it, obviously, when we won the league and we were all in party mode, and, there was maybe a bit more good grace for taking the foot off the gas. But if you go back and throw in the League Cup final defeat, it's and then come into this season, what's really, really, really been so frustrating has been just the changing of the narrative from what last summer was supposed to be to what now it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be, obviously, Liverpool building to go and compete to try and get the Premier League title back. And now it's become a discussion where apparently it was obvious to everybody it was a rebuild and we were in transition, and that was communicated to everybody. That was never the case, and it has never been the case. And again, I couldn't put it as beautifully as Melissa Reddy did, but those couple of lines that she wrote about basically it being a betrayal really stood out to me, because it's true. It is a betrayal. It's a betrayal of what this team had been, and what this team has become. Sorry, I just want to get the direct quote. So there's just this one paragraph where she said, it's not just the style of play that's unrecognisable, but what the team stands for and how they're seen. And she went on to say, Spearman's algorithm, Will Spearman, the head of data, as Spearman's algorithm suggested, was perfect for the situation that Liverpool were in all caps. That was then, and it would be surprising if the algorithm still found him top of the top for where the club are right now. And there required direction of travel after a season, which feels like a betrayal, not just stylistically, but to the very essence of defiance and courage that had defined this team for a decade. That is exactly how we feel. That it is a fucking betrayal. It's a betrayal of what we were promised. It's a betrayal of what we've been used to. It's a betrayal of what we've been best at. And all of them just want to put their hands over their ears and say, la, 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 la. These are the guys who told us stylistically we weren't going to have a big upheaval, who told us that he was similar. And we haven't seen it. And it hasn't been there. And now we're supposed to believe that they know everything that's wrong. They have it all sorted. And they're 100% convinced that after this summer, that they'll be fine. Everything will be great. It's just silly. Grizzly, thank you, mate, for gifting 10 memberships. Appreciate you. James Bailey said, "Evening, Craig. Just tuned in. I don't like his ego, but I take Mbappe if he was to accept lower wages and willing to work hard for the team." Oh yeah, I forgot about that poll. So we had a poll. We asked, would you take Mbappe at Liverpool? And we didn't just pluck this one out of our backsides because we wanted to have a conversation about Mbappe and Liverpool. It actually came from a piece written by, 1 second, I want to just make sure I get the right quote for you. This one. So it came from Peter O'Rourke, who writes for, I believe, the I newspaper, and said Kylian Mbappe is attracting renewed interest from a number of Premier League clubs, including Liverpool, amid the fallout at Real Madrid. The Reds are one of the select few who could afford the Frenchman, whose future will be decided when a new manager arrives. Now, I should point out to you here that when he was at Monaco and he was, before he moved to PSG, John W. Henry and FSG brought him, and I don't know if it was his family or his representatives, on a little flight on the private jet around somewhere in France and had discussions. And those discussions obviously didn't end up in him coming to Liverpool. But I don't know how serious that interest still might be. I don't know if Peter O'Rourke has a bit more information on this one. I haven't got a clue myself, so I don't know what to say. But actually, maybe he doesn't write for the I newspaper. That might be somebody else. But I don't know of any interest, yes or no. Like I honestly haven't got a clue. So, but I can say there was interest way back when. But look, is he a good footballer? Yes. But I don't know. I just feel like without somebody like a Jurgen, a real strong figurehead, I'd be concerned about the drama and the circus that comes along. Kylian Mbappe is one of the greatest players of the modern era. Incredible footballer, you know, but there's always drama. There's always fallouts in the dressing room. There's always headlines. And I don't know which side would win out at Liverpool. You hope that he'd come in and play well and you'd love him, because it's very possible. You'd certainly be excited about it and intrigued by it one way or the other. But how would it all work out? I honestly don't know the answer to that. But we did ask you guys, would you want Mbappe at Liverpool? And 1,430 people have voted. And 67% said no, they wouldn't want him at Liverpool. And 33% said yes. Just in fantasy world with no drama, imagine Mbappe, Isak, Diamonde. Yeah, it'd be incredible. Like I said, I'd be a liar if I sat here and told you if I woke up tomorrow and seen that Liverpool were signing Kylian Mbappe, I wouldn't be intrigued, to say the least. Nagelsmann's the number one target and most likely comes in when he gets sacked. So there's two names that have been brought up to me today. Neither of them Nagelsmann, but again, that doesn't mean yay or nay. But the names Iriola and Honus are two names from conversations with people I've had today that they think Liverpool are, at the very least, keeping tabs on for the future, wherever the future may be. Corbin said, accidentally missed the previous chat. Apologies, sir. I'll go and find it for you now. Itachi said, so this clown will be here next season. Nice. Yeah, let me just go and find that one for you, Corbin, dude. 1 second. Sorry, I'm just not seeing it initially, mate. 1 sec. This one. Who's your top pick apart from Enrique? Apart from Enrique, I probably am in the Xabi camp, but I would say some of that is because of my lack of in-depth knowledge on a Honus or a Nagelsmann. So I'm certainly open to other people having a better read on that than me. But for me, it is, as you said, after Enrique, it would be Alonso. But that's just because I know a bit more. If we were linked with, let's say, Nagelsmann or Honus and they were likely to come in, obviously I'd be doing my research at that point to find out a little bit more. But the Areola one is a mad interesting one, but I still think you would question whether he has enough force of personality really for the job. Because as a coach, obviously Antonio Areola's done really well. And again, really sorry, Corbin, that I missed that initially, mate. Joe said Hughes, Edwards, Ward knew all the issues with Slot. Now we're protecting him no matter what the damage is caused. Exactly that. Exactly that. And it's so clear now. Like we said, look at all the metrics, all the numbers. The season in numbers is just really, really poor. Ranking our lowest ever for XG, despite here, or lowest, our lowest in the Premier League era for XG, despite what he's saying. 18 defeats, 18 goals from set pieces. Still don't know who our right back is. Still have a midfield that you could walk through. Still have no pace, even though now they're talking about backing them with wingers as if it's all of a sudden something we were lacking. I'm starting to think that maybe these guys aren't as clever as they're made out to be. Or at the very least, like Melissa Reddy's piece said, they're afraid of a manager that will have the buy-in of the fans straight away. Somebody like Alonso. And I don't understand. That should be their wet dream. Do you know the amount of clubs out there that would love to bring in a manager that had everybody on side from day one like that? And they have an easy win there. And they're working so far to push him away. It's boggling. It really is crazy. Now, I'm not saying Alonso's the guy, but he should at least be under consideration to be the guy. Sonder said Sebastian Hoeneß is the best fit, both tactically and culturally, in my opinion. Such a class act. Well, I certainly know he's very highly regarded. And he was a name that was doing the rounds last summer as maybe a next, huge coach in the making, somebody of that kind of Klopp mold. But I just don't know enough about him myself to really, with a straight face, say he's the guy. I don't know, but I'm happy to bow down to others' opinion who do know a little bit more. Never any need to apologise. Imagine it's difficult. Yeah, but I always I feel really bad if I miss it because it's important to me that people get value for their money if they spend it. And if I do miss it, it's on me. But I do sometimes get distracted with a few bits and pieces. But I always appreciate your understanding, mate. Thank you. Do you think Mo saw all this coming, Craig? Yes, Ibrahim, I did. So look, Ibrahim, I've said this before, mate. I don't think it's an accident or it's coincidental that all of a sudden Salah wants out, Alisson's open to the idea of leaving, Jones is considering his future. Robertson is departing with, no talk about a new deal. But Costa's coming back, who's inferior to Robertson in every way. And I'm supposed to believe that makes us stronger at left back for next season. So, all these people suddenly, at the very least, being open to leaving, and some of them flat out leaving, concerns me. And here we are yet again, where the brain trust, the geniuses, the dweebs, haven't even got Canade's situation figured out, and we're less than 2 weeks from the end of the season, and they still don't have a breakthrough with Canade. And actually on that, Ornstein did have something to say about Canade. 1 second. Sorry. Where was this one? Yeah, so he said, one of the uncertain situations at Liverpool involves Ibrahima Canade, who was out of contract at the end of the season. As I understand it, the situation is still at a stalemate and it's not looking particularly positive, although until either side walks away, there is still hope that it could reach a positive conclusion for him to stay at Anfield. So we've got some people saying it's really close, and then we've got others saying it's not really close. So I don't really know, because I don't have information on it personally, so I have no idea. David Ornstein on NBC said this: I'm told Richard Hughes is 100% committed to remaining for this transfer window and leading Liverpool into next season. Beyond that, we'll have to wait and see, because he's out of contract in the summer of 2027. That's weird. That, again, the sporting director, who's going to be setting the tone for the future, could be off. And why would he want to be off? That's another thing that I keep asking. Why would somebody who's made the step up to Liverpool from Bournemouth not be counting their lucky stars that they're at one of the biggest football clubs in the world? Why would they not want to be here for the next 10 years? I don't know. It's all so weird. Dr. Jab said, why do the pre-season tours abroad if everybody are E-fans? The Liverpool Instagram account should only have the stadium capacity at Anfield amount of followers by that logic. So the club will say that that's not them putting it out, but it is their friendly little pet journalists that are putting it out to belittle everyone. And you just got to... Now, sorry, that's unfair to the likes of David Lynch and that haven't used that term. So, this is about Simon Hughes' piece, and I don't mean to drag them into this, but it is mad, isn't it? And like I've said, we're being pitted against each other now to try and distract away from all of this. Well, them two cowardly little fucks hide away in their executive boxes, not showing their faces to the world in a public sense, or answering questions or taking questions. It's just so slimy that Hughes and Edwards can just have all this power with nobody to answer to except FSG, who are missing in action or over in Boston. It almost feels like, I don't know, we're trying to fucking fuck up from within. It's so strange. It's such an alien concept to me that people aren't at least open to the possibility that they're wrong. That meme guy said, funny how FSG are concerned over new Canade contract, but they keep letting players run the contracts down. But even at that, right, there's no world where you go into a negotiation and so much of the leverage is on the other side where it's a good idea. And the longer it goes, the later it goes, the more the leverage is with Canade. Because, yeah, maybe he won't get the wage he'll get from Liverpool, but he'll get a big signing on fee somewhere else. And we constantly kept being put in this position. And we're told that these are professionals. But then we were told by Virgil and Salah that it absolutely impacted them last season when their contracts were running down and they didn't know their futures. So, yeah, it doesn't really make sense, does it? That another player here, we're in this position where we're 2 weeks out from the end of the season, probably 7 weeks out from his contract being out of date, and we're no closer. And this petition, where are we at now with it? 1 second. So the petition's now gone over 1 million. It's 1,042,000. Have you seen it highlighted in publications? Have you seen it mentioned in the same way you would if it was I guarantee you, if this petition said, we want to keep Slot, and I had 1 million signatures, you'd fucking know about it. You would absolutely know about it. And the point that I'm trying to make on this isn't opposition fans hijacking a petition because they want Slot to stay. This is Liverpool fans genuinely wanting them out and feeling like there's nothing left they can do but go to these type of lengths and then stop spending money. Because are FSG going to stand by if people really stop spending money at the club? Don't have as much pre-sale orders for the kits as they expect, or the take up on the hospitality tickets. So they're basically pushing us into a stance, and we have to make that stance. And I don't like that you've got the Anfield sectors of this world, who I have a lot of respect for, kind of shrugging their shoulders and going, oh, well, that's it, he's here next season. We still have time. We still have a voice, and we can still use our platforms to push feeling, sentiment, and get our points across. And I would encourage Anfield sector and others to continue to have their say, continue to use their platform to show that we're all in this together, and the majority do want him out, and that those who want to keep him in a job won't explain their decision making other than we know best. There isn't data to show it. There isn't evidence of what we're seeing on the pitch to justify it. So please don't give up. Please continue to have your say. Sport Bible have said Liverpool fans demand Arne Slot is sacked with millions signing viral petition. So there you go. Finally, an outlet, Sport Bible, covered it, but you don't see it in the Echo, because it's only the toxic online e-reds that want him out, apparently. We booed so loud through our keyboards that it found its way into Anfield twice on Saturday. I hate that Cherky started better than Flo. I think you probably know what my answer is going to be. You'll get more out of him with a better manager. And if Alonso came in, he'd absolutely get a better tune out of him. Like, we've seen players go on international duty and be so far away from the players that are playing for Liverpool. So much more confident, so much more settled, so much more like themselves. So, yeah, it's been frustrating, but I don't know. I just know we can't give up and we can't just shrug our shoulders. Or LFC said, hey Craig, just want the season to end. This channel has made this season bearable. Don't have any Liverpool fans in my circle, so your watch-alongs make me feel like I'm not alone. Love to you in this community. Thank you, man. That means a lot. We appreciate having you here. Thank you. So look, a couple of things I would like to ask you guys to do, if possible. If you can, drop a like on the stream for me. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love you to do that as well. But as I've asked you for the last couple of whiles, and I'll try it again, if you can subscribe to what is now the Anfield Agenda Clips channel, but will become Anfield Agenda Extra very soon, please do. Scan that QR code or just search Anfield Agenda Clips. We have a couple of conversations ongoing at the minute with a couple of content creators to come on board for the Anfield Agenda Extra channel next year to help give you different perspectives, player profiles, stuff like that, different types of content that I haven't got the time to do at the minute. So we've a couple of people that we're in conversation with at the minute that we're looking to bring on board for next year to continue to evolve as a channel and, give you different types of content and different views, different perspectives. And we'd appreciate your support. If you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to the Clips channel, make a big difference. And if we can push that towards 100k, that would be incredible. So thank you for all of that. And our competition as well. You still have plenty of time to enter it. Our May giveaway. We are giving away a signed, framed Robbie Fowler shirt, completely free. Scan the QR code or use the link in the description for further details. Our friends at the Collectors Corner have a sitting with Robbie Fowler soon, and they've given us your choice of one of these 3 shirts to give away. You can get it signed, whichever one you like, and it'll be framed and sent up to you with thanks to our friends at the Collectors Corner. And if you'd like to get 20% off anything store-wide at the Collectors Corner, you can use our unique code Anfield Agenda 1 or scan the QR code in the bottom corner. Wearied Mad said, I would have loved to have gotten Cherky, but I guarantee that if he come to us this season, he wouldn't have been the same before City move. Slot would have ruined him completely. Look, I would still say if you offered me tomorrow Cherky or Wirtz, I'm taking Wirtz every day of the week. But I will absolutely say, yeah, it hasn't been the season we'd hoped for from to settle in. But I do think with the right system, the right coach, the right support, we will see Wirtz become the player we believe he can be. Right, what else we got? Rook said, Flo is an easy test for who knows football. He's an attacking midfielder that lives inside half spaces. Yet both of our wingers occupy those gaps and starve him with the ball. He can't work with inside forwards. You know, there's a lot about last summer's recruitment that kind of leaves you scratching your head to figure out, like, what was the plan? And how are we, again, still looking so disjointed at the very end of the season? It really does boggle the mind that you would expect us to have looked better at this point. Is Liverpool in a massive danger of falling into permanent obscurity? Well, I wouldn't say permanent because everything in football is cyclical. But what angers me is I don't feel like we've had our era of success. We've had some success, and Jurgen's brought us right the way back up. But now it's supposed to be about building on that and us having our era. And it feels like we're falling further and further away from that. So what I'd say is most people feel like if Slot is kept on this summer, and even Ian Ladyman in his piece kind of intimated that it'd be a bigger surprise if he's still here come November. So we're already talking about failure into next season, and all of it can be stopped right now. Because whether Hughes and Edwards want to admit this, it isn't just about results. There's a lot about Slot that just isn't working for Liverpool fans. Him as a guy, the way he conducts himself, isn't connecting with us. And again, it's not to say he's a bad guy, but he doesn't ingratiate himself to fans with the deflections and the delusion. And that's not going to get any better, even if results change a bit. Because as I've said on here numerous times, it's really easy to be complimented and told how great you are when things are going good. But you see the real character of people when our back's against the wall. And I haven't seen fighting come out of Slot. I haven't seen anything other than deflection and excuses. And that to me is worrying. And it isn't going to be fixed because it isn't just a this season problem. It's an 18-month problem. And yes, the recruitment needs to be looked at. But again, Hughes and Edwards, many people believe, should also be on the chopping block. It's going to be a waste of a transfer window by keeping Slot. We all know he's getting sacked by match week 5. This is what I just can't figure out for the life of me. Like, it's so fucking clear. Like, even results aside, there just isn't that connection. There just isn't. Like, you can't force these things. That connection is not there. And yes, winning helps. But, you know, you can't fake it. You can't fake it. And that relationship between a Liverpool coach and the fans, it has to be right. Craig, what's this I hear about Virgil wanting to terminate his contract? I've no idea on that. The only thing I would say to you is there's been a couple of articles suggesting that Galatasaray could turn his head. I don't know. I don't have anything to say he wants to tear up his contract and leave, but I don't know. Like, how much more misery are they going to subject us to? Because the people that are making the decisions are also part of the problem. And who's going to make the decision on them? Because FSG, once again, are nowhere to be seen. Can we all agree that we should re-sign Bobby? No, that would be stupid. Firmino's way past it. And again, I don't want to see a watered-down version of Bobby Firmino. I want the memories of Bobby that I have from his time here. And if he came back now, it wouldn't end well. Trevor. So the team mirrors its manager's personality. So what does that tell you about Slot? Sorry, my dog's gone nuts in the kitchen. It tells you exactly what you think it does. That it is a reflection of the manager and how we're feeling. A few things to go through. This one. Alonso was stirring the pot with Chelsea. He only wants Liverpool. Thoughts? I did wonder when I'd seen all the links to Chelsea whether he was doing a Ruben Amorim when he was going to West Ham at that time, but I don't know. You know, some people like Ornstein keep getting told that Liverpool have no interest in Alonso, but yet the same Ornstein said once upon a time he was Liverpool's #1 target. So again, I keep saying these guys are disingenuous at the best of times, so I don't know what's fact and what's company line, but I hope you're right. Serious question. Is it possible they're holding back the sacking of Arne because Klopp's returning to Anfield after his 2-year break? I don't know anything about that, Peter. I mean, like, let's say that was to happen or was possible. I just don't understand then why you'd constantly be briefing in support of the manager, especially when you see what your briefings in support of the manager is doing to the fan base and how riled up it's getting everybody, myself included. So this is what I don't understand. Like, you'd have to imagine that these briefings are how they feel, but it doesn't mean they're right, because they will be proved wrong if he stays, and then we're just going to have another season wasted. Stevie Boy said, are Liverpool going to add the squad or buying to fill the gaps? I don't know, because, you know, like I've said before, if we're to believe they're going into the summer again to do another 4 or 5 signings, I really struggle to think how a manager that couldn't knit the team together this year is going to be able to bed in all these new players and knit it together for next year with more upheaval. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, the ones that they did bring in for this manager, have they really shown that he was right this season? Has he shown that he had a clear plan for these players? And the injury stuff really winds me up as well, because everyone has injuries, and the injury stuff's already been disproven, has been nowhere near as bad as it was during Klopp's time, when we had proper injury crisis and proper amount of days missed to it. And it also doesn't take into account that some of the reasoning for some of these injuries could be the training methods and the lack of intensity. Because you can't ignore that Jeremy Frimpong had fuck all muscle injuries at Leverkusen, and then as soon as he comes into Liverpool has 4 or 5. You got to ask why. Now, I'm not a sports scientist, so I don't know the answers, but I do know it's certainly worth a question. Embrace Gaming said, the tune is 100% changed from the press. That's deliberate. His recent comments when interviewed were not ones of a confident man. Look, people that I speak to who are very, very, very well connected and know people far higher up than me still believe in FSG looking at the numbers and saying it's not good enough, and it won't be good enough when they do their review. I'm hoping that they're right. So I'm going to say I am not an E-fan, sound your mouth. I didn't call you an E-fan, Brynjar. That's got nothing to do with me, bro. Take that up with Simon Hughes. Yeah, it's not us calling you E-fans, Brynjar. That's Simon Hughes' article in The Athletic. And I'll read it out to you so you have a bit of context. I'll read out the segment from the article. One second. Since November, discussions about slot suitability have become binary, with online e-reds framed as being more impatient and tending to want him gone, while matchgoers have remembered for longer what he helped deliver last season when Liverpool became champions. It's almost like he thinks we're tickos who doesn't remember that he won the league. We do, but all that goodwill's been used up. They don't do proper conditioning from what I've seen training sessions. They do loads of weird physio and balance drills rather than strength and power training. Well, there's been lots of good work done by people who are, sports scientists and have broke down why they see faults with the training methods this year. And look, they're far better. Like Simon Brundish and that, they're far better qualified to talk about this than me. I wouldn't understand 90% of the depth that they're going into. Gary, how are you, my man? Gary Jenkins said, Slot has said things will be very different next season in terms of results, playing style, etc., but hasn't explained how. Exactly, man. Exactly, Gary. It is just, trust me, bro. We know everything that's wrong. We know how to put it right. We didn't put it right all this season and ignored the January transfer window when we could have got wingers in then or a centre-back, but we didn't. But trust us, we know it'll 100% be better. But will you still be a dry fuck? Will you still be unable to ingratiate your sense to the fans? Will you still be able to make that bond and connection? There's so many other things here that they're just willing to ignore. Craig, before you sign off, can I ask your opinion on the West Ham decision? I think it's a problem of their own making in the PGMOL. And I think that the coverage of it has been very one-sided with a very clear narrative for a very clear outcome. When you've got Neville saying things like they got it right because it's what he agrees with, and you've got people like Dermot Gallagher and others saying that obviously the first clear contact was on Raya when it really wasn't. And you don't even have to take my word, just look at it. I've no dog in this fight. But look at it. There was grappling all over the shop before Raya came near. And Raya pushed players out of his way and then ran into a congested 6-yard box where all players' arms were all over each other and all jumping. But because the goalkeeper fumbled the ball and it was put in the net and there was 5 minutes of looking at it and there was slow motion replays that aren't supposed to be used for those type of incidents, they came to the conclusion that Arsenal have to win the league. And that's it. When you've got that particular team shithousing in the 6-yard box and 18-yard box all season, and then it very much feels like a case of the boy who cried wolf when it goes against them. And like I said, I've no interest in knocking Arsenal or not, but you've seen yourself online many, many examples of goalkeepers that have had similar things done to them and the outcome was nothing. And if you want to be that forensic and look back at it, then you're going to give about 18 penalties every game or a penalty every corner, pretty much, because it's been endemic this season. And this is supposed to be the season that Howard Webb said they were going to clamp down on it, and they've done no such thing. So, unfortunately, all it's shown me is that once again, VAR has had way too big of an impact in football, and it is re-refereeing games, and that was not a clear and obvious error because there was about 8 other fouls. But they only looked at one. And then they lied. They lied about it being the first contact when it wasn't. Go back and look. Rice had a hold of somebody before that ball went near the keeper. It's just, I don't know. It's horrible because you've got a situation, you've got one team looking to win the league and another team looking to stay up. And both are going to feel different ways looking at it. But as a neutral, I think Arsenal deserve to win the league, but I don't like that situation because it feels like they've been doing similar all year, and we've seen it every week where other teams doing it as well. Van Dijk was getting absolutely dragged down when his header hit the crossbar against Chelsea, and the ref didn't want to know, and VAR didn't want to know. And we've seen it every single week. So again, I think fans just want consistency of decision making, and we haven't seen that consistency this year from VAR and referees. And I told you guys about a poll that's on Sky that when I clicked on it earlier on, the question was, are on-field refs ducking big decisions because of VAR? And when I voted on it, 92% of people said yes, they are. Oscar said, if Liverpool don't sack Slot, I don't think I would prioritise watching them. I don't have the feelings I had before watching Liverpool. It's sad. Unfortunately, my man, you're not on your own. And you'd be surprised the amount of times people have posted a variation of what you've said there over the last few weeks and months. Now, I'll admit that I'll always watch Liverpool, but my heart isn't in it in the same way because I don't feel the connection. I feel gaslit by my own club. I feel pushed away and unwanted. I feel frustrated. And I feel like everything that we've been told about why they make their decisions is the exact opposite to their thought processes to keep them in the job. It isn't based off evidence, facts, and numbers. It just isn't. Hey, Craig. Just joined. Could be the past few streams as I've been doing my cameraman qualifications. How likely do you think Diamande is? Much love. I really am unsure, Tom, about Diamande, Barcola, preferences. You know, I'm very much at ease with either one of them would be great. I do think if you're looking at it with Liverpool, I could see them looking at Barcola as having a bit more experience at a higher level. Obviously, Diamande was he at Leganes in Spain's second tier or something before? But obviously he's had a really good season, but he is 19. And when you've already got a young 17/18-year-old winger in Rio on the other side, I could see a world looking at, the fact that Liverpool, the phrase, like to have a career. I think it was Dr. Ian Graham said it. They like players to have a career before their Liverpool career. You would say Barcola is probably more in that mould. So, yeah. And it might come down to what PSG are going to do there as well, because there's a contract negotiation with them. So, I don't know on Diamande. I do feel like 100 million euros is a bit expensive for a player with limited experience at the top level, but that's a decision for the club to make, and I think others are going to be watching that situation like PSG. So Melissa is so eloquent in her analysis. Absolutely, Christopher, she's brilliant. She's just a great journalist and doesn't hide away from what she's seeing with her own eyes. She knows what she's talking about, and when she said that it's like a betrayal of the spirit and this team the last 10 years, that's exactly what it feels like to me as well. And the ones who are committing that betrayal are being sheltered from any real pushback or aren't putting themselves forward to answer any difficult questions. They just hide away. Right, I'm going to say goodnight, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. Appreciate you. And thank you for tonight. If you could just hit that like button for me, and if you haven't subscribed, would love you to do that as well. But just on your way out, hit that like button, and it helps us push the stream out there, and hopefully we can bring in some new members to our community. But I appreciate you all. It's been an enjoyable evening. I just hope that ultimately you don't get burnt out. Do keep up having your say. Do make it known. Your opinion does matter, and it should be heard. So make sure that you do. Always, don't go into an abusive place, but be strong. Know that your opinion matters, and don't let them grind you down. Appreciate